I hope that you're enjoying Dem Boys podcast. Just a quick recap. Episode 9, I discussed finding courage. Episode 10, I got to sit down with Andy Gonzalez. Episode 11 was with V. Martin. Episode 12, I talked about healing generational trauma through transformative parenting. Episode 13, I discussed philanthropy. Episode 14, I sat down with Melly. And then episode 15, I got the chance to speak with Xavier Jones. So in November, I will be taking a short break, but I will be back in December with new topics, new guests, new episodes. So in December, I'll be sharing my coming out story. And also, I got the opportunity to sit down with a group of folks, and we had a long and good conversation about love, sex, and relationships. So in the meantime, while we're on this break, be sure to go to whatever platform you listen to the podcast, rate us 5 stars if you can, leave a comment about the show, and also share the show out with folks in your networks. So in the meantime, enjoy all the past episodes, and we'll see you again in December. Take care. Hello, I'm your host, Sean Aaron, and welcome to Dem Bois Inc. podcast. This show is a platform where trans men of color voices can be amplified as we share our transitional stories and many other issues that are relatable to trans men of color in our existence. This show is not only to amplify our voices, but to raise awareness and conversation around our lived experiences. So in this episode, I would like to talk about our community call to action. So what does that mean? So Dem Boys, as an organization, including myself, would like to take this opportunity to call our community in. What is our community? Just other trans folks of color, our allies, friends, family, whatever, to call in a community action to help us fundraise $20,000 that will go into our next fund for gender affirming surgeries. So in episode 13, I talked about reaching back through philanthropy and the actualization of Dem Boys. So in that episode, I discussed why I started Dem Boys, how I started Dem Boys, and the steps that I took to get to where we are now. So if you look at the grand scheme of things, Dem Boys as an organization is a little fish in a big pond. So what I mean by that is that in comparison to other larger scaled organizations who bring in hundreds and thousands and even millions of dollars every year, in comparison, Dem Boys is very small. So in that big pond of big fish, big organizations, we're actually the little fish. So when I first founded Dem Boys, a lot of organizations, a lot of foundations saw Dem Boys as, oh, okay, this is a good idea that you want to provide financial assistance to trans men of color, but we're not interested in that. You haven't provided anything yet. I'm like, well, how can I provide anything? We just started yesterday. So when I say that little fish, that means that our mission, our vision was not actualized in the larger picture of larger funders and larger folks that would like to give money to organizations, right? So a lot of our funding, even in the beginning and even up until now, has been based on individual donors like yourself as a listener and donating to the organization in order for us to provide the services that Dem Boys provides. This year in 2022, we had our gender affirming surgery grant that opened in February and it closed in April. And throughout that time that the application was open, we received over 386 applications. That's a lot of people. Not as merely as enough people that would like to have gender affirming surgery, whether top surgery or what other kind of surgeries that trans men of color desire to have. But that's a large ask for an organization, right? And of course, like the resources, we can't provide for all 300 or all 400 or whoever that applies, right? We have to narrow that down. So in June, we actually provided 4 folks
that apply with gender affirming surgery. And that was made possible because folks donated to our gender affirming surgery fund. And that was able to happen. So let's talk about the programs. Our programs within Dem Bois. It's not just this podcast, right? This podcast is just a small part of it, of the larger picture. So this podcast is to amplify trans men of color and our voices and share our stories, and actually create a discourse around our experiences in our lives and what we go through as trans men of color, right? We also have our care package program. And so in 2020, during the peak of the pandemic, we received a few emails from other folks like trans men of color. It was like, hey, I know your organization provides surgeries, but funds for surgery, but I don't need that right now. I actually don't have anything to eat and I lost my job and I don't have, personal hygiene needs. And so I remember responding back to this person and was like, hey, well, you know, we don't actually provide those services right now. And so I remember going back to the board and was like, hey, because this really bothered me, right? Because this is just like how I came to the realization of Dem Bois and the work that I wanted to do through the organization was realizing that these were things that folks in my community needed, right? Folks in my community need assistance in order to obtain gender affirming surgery. And so I'm like, this is something that's important. And right, we were going through a pandemic at the time, and it was just really, we didn't know how long it was going to be before everything was locked down. And, so this has been going on, right, for like a year and a half, 2 years. And we still seeing the after effects of the pandemic. And so I was like, we should do this. Like, this is something that is much needed within our community. And we talk about, wanting to help our community. Like, what about how many other people out there need this service, but they're not speaking on it because it doesn't, it's not something that's widely provided. And so you think about folks that maybe you lost your job and you're not able to purchase personal care items, because let's be real, right? Buying stuff, especially now with the way prices have gone up with things, gas and food and all these other necessities that we need, the prices have skyrocketed, really. And it's really hard. And just think, like, if you're unhoused or you're unemployed, and being able to purchase things that you need for your personal care becomes out of reach. And I reflected back with my team of like, hey, I remember, and I talked about this, and I might have talked about it briefly in episode 3 when I talked about me surviving homelessness. But there was a time in my life when I was homeless that I didn't have soap, I didn't have toothpaste, I didn't have a toothbrush. So I went a long time without actually taking care of my personal care needs. And so, like, this program, I know how that feels. Like, this program should exist. And at that time when we all discussed it, it was like, well, that's not a part of our mission, and we don't really have the resources allocated for that. And so I was pretty serious. I was pretty adamant about this program existing. So just a moment of transparency. So what I did, I was like, no, this program needs to exist. This need and this ask should not just be out there in the universe and nobody's answering this call. So the first, maybe I'm gonna say 50 care packages that were sent out was actually purchased. All of the items purchased came out of my own pocket. I went and I purchased all of the items, and it's right. And we're talking about a couple thousands of dollars, right? Because you have to buy all the items and then plus shipping. And I was like, no, this needs to happen. So just thinking, so there now became another community call to action, right? Of like, hey, reaching out to other foundations, like, hey, we need money, we need assistance for this program. There's trans men of color out there that desperately need these items, and so we actually were able to get funding for that at a later date. And so that's one of our programs, right? So we got the care package program, we have this podcast, and we also have our gender affirming surgery fund, right? So this community call to action is to say, hey, in 2023, we would like to provide even more awardees money for their gender affirming surgeries than we did this year. So this year we had 5 actually. So it was 4 and then one person outside of that group of 4. And so just to think like, so even another moment of transparency, right? So even for me, one thing that I believe is I can't ask somebody to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. So even at work, my other job, my full-time job, and I talked about my full-time job in episode 7, transitioning at work. And I manage folks and I supervise folks. And that's one of my mottos in life, really, even as being a parent, even being at work, is I will not ask someone to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. Right. So within this community call of action, it's like, yeah, I'm asking folks, hey, help us raise an additional $20,000 for our 2023 gender affirming surgery grant. Right. So every month I actually donate myself. So I actually go on our website and I put in, I want to donate, I don't know, whatever it may be, $100, $200, $300, whatever it may be. Maybe it's like, oh, okay, this week I'm just going to do 10, or maybe this week I'm going to do 100, right? So I would not ask someone to do something that I wouldn't personally do and that I don't do myself, because I know how powerful our mission is. I know how great the need is within our community, and I can't ask someone to do something that I'm not willing to do myself, or that I don't believe in myself, right? Hey, this is Sean Aaron. I'm the founder and executive director of Dem Bois Inc. I am also the host of Dem Bois podcast. As you may know, Dem Bois provides financial assistance to trans men of color in order for them to obtain gender affirming surgery. We have great news. We're currently looking for volunteers to help support our programs. Our programs include our gender affirming surgery grant program and also our personal care package program. We personally curate packages filled with personal hygiene items. Just to name a few, things like tissue, soap, towels, toothpaste, and toothbrushes. We mail them out to trans men of color across the country who may be in need of help caring for their personal hygiene needs. We are looking for volunteers to help raise funds to support our programs. Also, we're looking for someone locally to the Bay Area to help us put all of the care packages together. If our mission is something that resonates with you and you would like to help support our work, just let us know. You can send an email to hello@dembois.org. That is HELLO@DEMBOIS.org. And we will get back to you with further details. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy the next episode. Somebody might say, hey, well, I can't really donate that much. You know what? Any amount counts. You could say, hey, I only got $10. $10, great. So just imagine if 10 people listening donated $10, that's $100. If those 10 people told 10 more people, then that becomes $1,000, right? And then if those 10 people on top of those 10 people told 10 more people, you get it, right? So like, it's compounding on top of compounding. And so folks in our communities, I think it's our obligation to take care of one another. So we think of communities of color, calls to action. So when I think of a community call to action, the first thing I think about is church. So I was raised in church as a younger person. And when I think of a community call, right, you get the deacons per se. I was raised in a Church of God in Christ. So you get the deacons per se, they go up in front of the church, and their community call to action is, hey, we need money to keep the lights on. We need money to, I don't know what else they need money for. That's a whole nother topic, right? But whatever, hey, this is our building fund, or this is how we pay for the landscaping, or this is how we pay our pastor, or this is how we pay the water bill, or we get the carpet shampoo, whatever the money is that the need is for the church. That's the community call for action, right? So they put the plates out. However, if you ever went to church, however a particular church does it, either they pass it down the aisles. When I think of this, I think of that movie Coming to America, when they were at that fundraiser, and the ushers just passed the plate to one person on the end, and you just pass the plate down the aisle. Or some places or some churches, everybody gets up, well, in my church when I was younger, where everybody stood up and we actually had to walk around. I don't like that actually now that I'm thinking about it, because it's like it's putting you on blast. It's like it's calling you out in a way of like, you are you going to get some offering? Anyway, so we walk around, we put money in the plate, right? So that's the community call to action. It's like, hey, community, hey, church members, hey, family, hey, friends, we are in need. Here is our bucket, and we're putting this bucket out, and please help us with whatever you can, right? Some people go around, they put in 50 cents, or some people put $1 or $5 or $10 or whatever they put that they have that was on their heart to give, or whatever they had to give at that moment. So it's to say that no amount is small enough. Every amount counts, and it goes towards helping trans men of color obtain gender affirming surgeries, right? So out of those in 2022, out of those 386 applicants, I have a team and we go through all the applications together and we discuss and like, the different things that we discuss in pertaining to the applications. But I look at every single one. I actually look at and read every single one because I care, and because I want to know, like, who is this person? What's their story? What's their journey? And what can we do to help more folks? Right. So you might think, well, where can I donate? That's a good question. So there's a couple of places that you can go and to donate, right? So first place is our website. Go on our website, click the donate button. And from there, it'll pull up a list and you can decide, hey, I want to donate $10. Hey, I want to donate $20. Or, hey, I want to donate $10 every month. Or you can go to our IG page. And from there, in our link in description, click on that and it'll have a button where you can donate. Also, there's another place that you could donate, right? Amazon Smile. So it costs nothing to a person who signs up. So say you have an Amazon account and you shop Amazon every week, like I do, and also not asking someone to do something that I don't already do. So connected to my personal Amazon account, I also donate to Dem Bois. So what happens is, within the link, also you can find this Amazon link within our link in description. So it'll take you to Amazon Smile. And from there, you say, hey, every time I make a purchase, I would like a tiny bit. Amazon donates this money from their profits, from their money. So every time I purchase something, I would like this percent to go to Dem Bois. So what happens is you make your purchase. Every time you make a purchase, it'll say, congratulations, thank you. You have supported Dem Bois. And then at the end of the month, Amazon takes all the donations across Amazon, all sales, and they say, hey, Dem Bois, this is what you raised during the month through Amazon Smile. And then they'll send it to us. And so that also goes into our pot for our care packages and our gender affirming surgery grants, right? So just wanted to use this time and take this time, especially I think is really important for folks who have already had their gender affirming surgeries to help other fellow trans men of color obtain the same thing, right? Because we know, like, once you have your surgery, the joy you feel, the happiness you feel within your body, right? It's not the end of the journey. You're like, right, transitioning is a lifelong journey. Really, there's a lot of different things and a lot of different things that change and shape as we age or as we move along and within our transition, right? But I think it's our responsibility. And even if you haven't began your transition, but you want to, or you haven't had surgery and you want to, or you have, I think it's our responsibility and our obligation to hold and to care for each other. So if you're listening to this, there's no obligation, right? This is a community call to action. This is a volunteering thing, right? But even if you're like, hey, Sean, I resonate with your mission, but I don't have anything to give because I'm struggling too. Hey, but you might know someone that may be able to give. So if it's like, I can't give, but I know 10 people who can give, then share our organization, share our fundraiser. Say, hey, I love this organization, Dem Bois. I love what they're doing. I listen to their podcasts. I follow them on Instagram. I love the work that they're doing. I see what they're doing in the community. Hey, could you support them? And that will work in that way too, right? So the goal of this call to action episode is to encourage folks to support others within our community. So a lot of times people say, hey, I don't like to donate to organizations because I don't know what they're doing with their money, what they doing, how much they paying people, like all these things, right? And those are all concerns. And just another moment of transparency. Ever since the formation of this organization, I currently volunteer all of my hours. So anytime you hear me on the podcast, anytime you see me on interviewing folks or hearing me on folks or posting things or anything that I do within the organization at this moment is all volunteer. So I talked about transitioning at work, episode 7. So I also have another full-time job, right? But every dollar, every money at this point within the organization, because we're still that little fish, everything goes to our programs, every dime, every cent. It doesn't go to pay salaries. It doesn't go to do any of that. We hope in the future to build our capacity in which that could be a possibility, right? But it takes little moments like this within these calls of action in order to grow, in order to help more people, in order to expand, in order to be able to provide services for a long period of time and for more folks, to introduce new programs and do new things and within our community. So I would like to say thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting Dem Bois. And I'll see you on the next episode. Remember, if you have any questions that you would like to hear me answer on a future episode or a future guest to answer, please send your questions to hello@dembois.org. That's HELLO @dembois.org. Until next time, take care.
Thank you for listening to today's show. Once again, I'm your host. My name is Sean Aaron. Be sure to be sure to share this show out with folks in your networks. If you would like to connect with us, be sure to follow us on Instagram or Facebook. You can also visit our website at dembois.org. That's DEMBOIS.org. If you think you will make a great guest on this show, or maybe you have a question for myself or a future guest that you would like to hear answered on the show, please send an email to hello@dembois.org. That's HELLO @dembois.org. Until next time, take care.